Welcome back, episode 3. Two fans, one Paul. Just myself today. David Quiz-KB is taking a little R&R. He's back in Michigan for his wedding, which I'm in, and he's just hanging out with the fam today. So I'm just going to take it today. The first two episodes are kind of content heavy with the roster and the schedule overview. Today's going to be a little bit different. I'm just going to go over some stuff I've heard this weekend with State, and then jump into my top 5 games that I've been to. Um, Obviously, I haven't been to every one. A lot of my buddies I tailgate with have been to some cool games. Myself, unfortunately, um, I have not been to some Big Ten championships, and I haven't been to Michigan. But I got a good list here. Some honorable mentions in 5. But I'll just jump into some news from this weekend. State had their second scrimmage. Sounds like Hauser and Kim are still battling for the one spot. Read some good stuff about Hauser and Kim. Sounds like Hauser's a team guy. And then I did read about um, QB battles in state the last 10, 15 years or so, and it seems like choosing the younger guy might be the better option. The first one that I was looking at and reading at was Cousins and Nickel. Obviously, both are good quarterbacks. Keith Nickel went to Oklahoma, transferred back. Eventually, Cousins won out, and he's now a pretty decent NFL quarterback, and we were very successful underneath Cousins. The next one I can think of was Andrew Maxwell and Connor Cook. I'm pretty sure Cook won this job against Notre Dame, and then I think we went to the Rose Bowl that year. Um, and then Cook had a pretty successful couple years with us. And the next one, very recent, was Peyton Thorne and Russo, transfer from Temple. The older guy was Russo, Thorne was a younger guy, and then Thorne came out to one, and we went 11-2 with Kenneth Walker. So I think Noah Kim could be a good starter, but maybe Hauser's the guy to choose because then he'll be Mel Tucker's guy, and then we can run with him. Maybe Kim stays as a team guy, or he transfers out. I think whoever loses the job will transfer out, but you never know. I would love to see both guys stay, but like I said in our first or second podcast, I can see Hauser being the guy. But Kim definitely has a big upside, but I think Hauser's just the better quarterback in general. Bigger body, bigger arm. So I guess we'll see who wins that battle in a couple weeks here. But this is week 0. We have games this weekend. Thank the Lord it's back. Can't wait. I think Notre Dame, Navy is the first game. They're playing in Ireland. There's a couple other games. I think Hawaii, Vanderbilt. Just a couple games just to put on the TV and just kind of get ready for actual week 1. We had a nice Big Ten game that week before State plays. I think we got Minnesota, Nebraska, or something like that. Could be, yeah, I think it's something like that. So football's right on the corner. I'm excited. Obviously, we have preseason, but week 0 is here. Navy Notre Dame. I'll probably watch that. I think it's a 2:30 kick Eastern time, and they're playing in Dublin, which I always find pretty cool. But we're right around the corner from college football, and I'm ready to go. So super excited. But we're gonna jump into um, what I want to do for this episode. My top 5 games I've been to since I can remember. There is a game I can't remember if it was '99 or whatnot. We played Ohio State, and they were ranked 1, and we beat them. Might have been '98. Can't remember the exact year. I think my dad brought me to that game. I can't fully remember. I got to double check with him, but that is not on my list. But these are just games I've been to in the last 10 years or so, actually, which is pretty nuts to say. I got a couple honorable mentions to start. I have 3 honorable mentions. The first one would be 2021 at Miami. My buddy Matt got engaged. Congrats to them. They got married this year. And then we kind of found out that State was for real this year. We beat Miami 38-17 there. K9 kind of went off, and we kind of took control in that game in the second half. It was hot. It was humid. Honestly, not a lot of Miami fans were there. Cool stadium, but just not in a good location. Could have been really, really loud as well, but it just was not a lot of fans there. Cool to see an NFL stadium. We took over that game. K9 was very good. Thorne and Naylor had had a touchdown or 2. Mosley was solid, who should be our number 1 receiver. So it's a cool game, cool atmosphere. It was nice to be in Florida, and a lot of good times down there. Another honorable mention would be last year against Washington in Seattle. We lost 39-28. Seattle's a cool town. It was good to be with the guys and out there. We had a really nice townhouse and a cool neighborhood. And most of the people in Seattle were super nice. The setup around the stadium was super cool. It's around like 3 lakes. The practice field had like food trucks and stuff, so just a cool setup. The stadium was pretty cool, really loud. One of the loudest stadiums I've been in for sure. And they're ready to go. I was golfing with some buddies yesterday, and every team does something weird. Northwestern does like the row row. and then they do the ooh 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 ooh. So it's a little cheesy, but it was pretty cool. And like I said, they were super loud. They beat us pretty good. Most of the fans were nice. Shout out my wife's company. They make the seating there, so just kind of cool. And I'll shout out Seattle too. Big Pacific Northwest guy. Even though we lost, I'd love to go back again. Future Big Ten opponent, so we can easily go back probably. My last honorable mention would be 2014 against Ohio State. It was a home game, a night game. We actually lost 49-37. Packed house. JT Barrett had himself a game. I think he had like 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. But he was lights out. Pretty high scoring game. But they were the better team this year. Great atmosphere. I remember we were going up to walk to our seats and it was so backed up. It was just full house, 75,000 packed Spartan Stadium. Nothing beats a night game against a big team like Ohio State when we were peaking 2014. I think that was the Cotton Bowl year. So just a good atmosphere even though we lost at home. Time to jump into my top 5 games that I've been at over the last 10 years or so since I've been a really big fan. At number 5, 2021 versus Penn State. Final score 30 to 27 with the win. Honestly, I was a little tipsy going to this game. It's the week of the Michigan and Ohio State game, and that's a noon kick, so we were 3:30. The campus was pretty dead. It's Thanksgiving weekend. We were kind of tailgating by ourselves, and then these guys next to us were just kind of hanging out. And we kind of got invited to go over there to watch the Michigan game, and he had a bunch of whiskey and bourbon, and he poured us a couple cocktails, and I found a really cheap bottle I liked, and I had a couple drinks, and I was feeling pretty toasty. This is just a tangent before the game. We actually started watching the game. It was snowy and cold. We walked up into the stadium, and my dumbass walked into the wrong section, and my wife was like, "You're here, and I need you to be here." Proceeded to then drunkenly eat a pretzel that I dropped. Needed the carbs. I missed the first touchdown by Kenneth Walker, but we eventually got to our seats. She was also pregnant and sober, so she did not want to deal with me at all. But fun game to be at, cold and snowy. It doesn't always happen, but it was just really cool to see a close game with Penn State, technically a rival game. Kenneth Walker had over 100 yards, 30 carries, and a nice game-sealing catch by Jaden Reed. Totally mossed a guy. I think it might have been on third or fourth down. 5 minutes left in the game, right in front of us. So just super cool to see. And when they won, they did like snow angels and stuff. So just a cool atmosphere to be in. Even though it was cold and snowy, and I got a little too tipsy, but hell of a game to be at. I think 2021 was just a fun season overall for home games. Number 4, 2013, so my freshman year of college, I was in the student section with my buddy, shout out promo guy. We won 29-6, and this is the game where we just destroyed Devin Gardner. We dug his grave in Spartan Stadium, in my opinion. We had 7 sacks as a team. He had negative 46 rushing yards. It's just fun to be at. Being in the student section, it was kind of a drizzly day, kind of cold. Michigan fall weather, and we just dominated them. I don't think this was the Stake game. I think the Stake game was the next year, 2014. We won like 35-11, which I don't think I went to. But I just remember when we got the back-to-back-to-back sacks, it was probably one of the loudest I've heard in the stadium. Obviously, it's top 5 for me. So, yeah, the back-to-back-to-back sacks was just unreal, and we were pumped up and just loved putting Michigan in place back then in 2013. Number 3, 2015 versus Oregon, 31-28 win. It's a top 7 matchup. I think we were 5 and they were 7, or flip-flopped. The year before, in 2014, we went to Oregon, played Marcus Mariota. It was kind of close in the first half, and then they just pulled away. This was a night game. We had our pro combats. They had some icy white unis with Vernon Adams at quarterback, who transferred from Eastern Washington. And the bronze helmets, which are iconic because we also, later in the season, beat Ohio State on the kickoff with kick with Michael Geiger. So just a fun atmosphere. You could just feel in the air that State was trending up, and it was kind of our year to go off. I would say it was a program-defining win at the time because Oregon is still a big deal now, but that's just a big matchup. I'm glad we had that home and home. I think it was good for both teams. And one of my good buddies, Matt, who I talked about earlier, he says this is probably the loudest he's heard Spartan Stadium was this game. I was watching some highlights, and I remember Josiah Price, our tight end at the time, did like a little duck hunt celebration in the end zone, pretty cool. Um, it's kind of a back and forth game, and we kind of held them off at the end. Um, and this was the start of a really good year. We went to the college football playoff. Obviously, we got spanked by Bama, but just a fun game, a night game. I think night games are always fun. I think 3:30 is probably the best kickoff time, but just something fun to be a part of. And I was still in college, and I think it was not at State, but a school in West Michigan and Grand Valley. It was just fun to be there and watch that team, just kind of take off from there. Number two, this is where things were kind of hard for me. But definitely know what sucked me in, and I'm going to kind of probably talk a lot about these two games. But this was 2021 versus Michigan, 37-33 win. I mean, what a game. Both teams were 7-0. Both teams were, I mean, had college football playoff aspirations. Both teams had Heisman candidates. If you want to talk Hutch, who's aligned now, won Pride, and Kenneth Walker, who just had himself a fucking day. I mean, just electric to be there. Actually, at the time, I had some job stuff going on, and I went to this game and left my job because of that. So, fun fact. And I thought it was the right decision. I still think it is. What a day. We also did our gender reveal. Shout out my kid. He's awesome. Love him to death. Back to this, though. So just a big game atmosphere. You can kind of feel it. I was nervous. It's kind of a back and forth game to start. Kenneth Walker might have actually fumbled when he scored, and he broke the plane. If you watch it back, he kind of tucks the ball up, and it kind of pops out right before he breaks the plane. Maybe he broke the plane. It is technically there's a wall there when you score a touchdown with the football. So not as a big deal. Obviously, the controversial call is the sack on Peyton Thorne in the end zone for a safety, or it might have been a scoop and score. I can't remember. Might have been a scoop and score, and Michigan would have gone up like three possessions, I think. I don't know what the rule is. Do I know if his shin or knee was down? I really don't know. Does the NCAA not like Michigan and Harbaugh? I don't know. I usually think Michigan and ESPN. I don't know if they're all obviously they're not all connected, but some other big entities in the world love Michigan. Maybe Harbaugh and the NCAA don't always see face to face, but if you look back, maybe there was this much of his shin not touching the ground, so he was down technically, or was touching the ground. So maybe he was down. I really don't know the rules on that, but at the end of the day, you got to stop one guy. I mean, he almost went for 200 yards and he had 5 tutties, and all people will complain about, if they still want to complain about this game, I think either way it's a great football game, was that he was down or wasn't down and he fumbled and they scored. I tell you what, when right before that point or after that point, I remember the stadium was pretty freaking quiet. I think we were down by 2 touchdowns or so, and then K9 broke off a long 50-yarder. He had like 3 or 4 long touchdown runs, and then we really got the juices back in. But I do remember right around when the Thorn thing all happened, and a little bit after it, it was pretty quiet in the stadium. But when Kenneth K9 broke off to get us within 1, and then it was a little bit closer, and then Michigan had the ball. JJ was in, like Kirk and I talked an episode or 2 ago, and him and Corum had a miscommunication. They fumbled it. We jumped on it, and then he broke for another 30-yard touchdown. It was electric, so loud. Just something you don't see a running back against a top 10 opponent go off for 5 touchdowns, and he literally just was on another level that day, and I think we all saw it. Just incredible. He's obviously a good running back in the NFL, but just seeing something like that in front of your eyes with a packed stadium of Michigan State and Michigan fans, we're all neighbors and whatnot, and obviously there's some hostility and whatnot and talking shit, but even if Michigan wins that game, I'm obviously disappointed, but what a good football game in general. So definitely something I'll never forget. It was loud. I watched history. K9 is our guy. 5 tutties, and even the announcer said he said hello New York. And obviously, I think we all can agree that K9 was snubbed for the Heisman. Would he have won it? I don't know. It's kind of a quarterback award these days. He should have been there, 100%. He would have got my vote. But what a hell of a game. And obviously, they're the only team in the Big Ten, beat Michigan that year. They went on to win the Big Ten. They smoked Ohio State this year, same year as the snow game for Penn State I was talking about, my number 5 slot. So just a great season, a lot of fun games, including the Miami game. So just a hell of a season to look back at and a year to look back at. But let's jump into number 1. This is what got me hooked, hook, line, and sinker. If I could remember me going to the game with my dad in '99 or '98 when we beat Ohio State, number 1, that might be there, but I don't remember if we actually did or not. I got to check with him, like I said. But number 1 is 2011 at home against Wisconsin. Final score 37-31. Win. One word. The name of the play, Rocket. Man, I'll talk about the play at the end here, but what a day. I was a senior in high school. Game day was on campus. Both teams, I think, were top 10. Night game, we're playing Russell Wilson. Borland, I think, was a really good linebacker. They had Monty Ball and James White. I mean, they were stacked. They were a stacked team, and obviously we played them again in the Big Ten championship game, and it was also another great game. But I was watching highlights earlier today, and this gave me goosebumps. But to start the game, Wisconsin went up 14-0. Then we got a safety because Russell Wilson threw it out of intentional grounding in the end zone. And then we scored a touchdown, blocked field goal, blocked punt for a touchdown, and then we ended up going up 31-17. So it was kind of a back and forth game. And then the fourth quarter, Russ has a couple long passes, a couple of touchdowns by the running backs, and then it's 31-31. And Wisconsin has all the momentum. We got the ball back. We almost fumbled it, and then it went to the play. I'll never forget, I was by myself. So I was with my buddies during the tailgating and stuff, but I was by myself in the stadium. I got a student section ticket, and, man, it was something I'll never forget. Just the game up and down and the ending, of course, but I just want to throw that out there because it was it just felt like I was part of state, and obviously this is kind of what I wanted to apply and go there, but it didn't work out, such as life. But back to the game. We get the ball back, almost fumble. There's like a couple seconds left in the game, and we got the rocket play, Hail Mary. Kirk Cousins rolls out to his right, throws it 50, 60 yards in the air. If you watch the replay back, it hits B.J. Cunningham, who had a hell of a year that year, right in the face. Bounces to Keith Nickel, Lowell, Grand Rapids legend. A transfer from Oklahoma back, lost his starting job to Kirky Cousins. And then he's such an athlete that they put him at receiver. Catches the ball, fights his way in. You can't really see the ball when he scores. They said he's short. We all freaked out in the stands when he caught it and everything, but they said he was short, and obviously there was a long pause. And then he's like, if you watch it back, the guy's like, and he is good. Like, you couldn't even understand the ref, but he said touchdown or good. We all just freaked out again. And then, so the stadium went crazy twice, super loud, super crazy, hugging everybody. Everybody's hugging each other, and in the student section, it was wild. And then I'll never forget, no one wanted to leave the stadium. Kind of like the Michigan game in 21. It's just a cool environment to be with that many people. You kind of feel part of the team. You don't want to leave the stadium. You kind of want to just kind of bask in that moment. And, there's been a lot of crazy games like that for state. Obviously, Little Giants against Notre Dame. I didn't go to that one, but that would be definitely up there if I was at that game. The Kenneth Walker game, even the Big Ten championship in 2011, the Big Ten championship against Ohio State, and the Big Ten championship against Iowa. If I went to any of those games, those would be on my list. Or even the Rose Bowl. Such good games, close games, and just history. All my buddies that have been to those games, shout out to you. I'm definitely jealous. Hopefully, I'll get my time. I just wasn't a student. Obviously, I was watching the game. Sometimes watching on a TV is better, I will say. As much as I love tailgating and I love being in the stadium, sometimes just being on the couch by yourself or with your wife or your girlfriend or one of your buddies is kind of the best way to watch college football. But obviously, I like to tailgate and be in the stadium as well. But just those years were great. I wish I went to one of those Big Ten championship games, maybe the Ohio State one, because that was just electric. But so was the Iowa one. So, but the 2011 Wisconsin State games were just next level. I remember watching the Big Ten championship game and another back and forth game. Keith Nickel makes a crazy other play, tosses a touchdown, like a catch, and tosses it to B.J. Cunningham. Scores a touchdown, and Keyshawn Martin this year was electric. He I had him. I think I have him down in my notes here. He scored a couple touchdowns. He took a punt back almost to like the 5 yard line in the Big Ten championship against Wisconsin, but we got it called back to running into the kicker, Isaiah Lewis, our safety, who was a dog. Just like clipped the punter's leg. So I mean, obviously he's going all out trying to make a play, so that sucked. But two crazy games against a really good team. I mean, Russell Wilson, when he got to Wisco, I mean, they were very good. They went to the Rose Bowl because they beat us. So just an awesome experience to be a part of for all the games. But that Wisconsin game was kind of the beginning of my like. I was always a fan growing up. Obviously, went to some games here and there as a kid. I went to the Central Michigan game against Dan Lefevre and Antonio Brown where we lost with my grandpa. Oh, that was a weird experience for sure, especially an upset against a MAC team. Knock on wood. Um, but yeah, I went to some games here and there with my dad and my grandpa and some friends. But that was a game that really hooked me in. I mean, what a game! What an experience with game day. A lot of stuff to do on campus. Wasn't really tailgating much or drinking then. Obviously, that was now that I'm an adult. But just a cool experience to be on campus and walk around and see everything and feel what it's like to be at state. So, and then obviously the just being in the student section and they play in the game, and I love football. I'm really into it. So, hooked me in. I think we got season tickets a few years later. I think my girlfriend at the time, now wife, got season tickets. I think it was 2016. We went 3-9, so that was kind of disappointing. I think we took a break, went to a couple games the next year or two, and then I got season tickets starting right before COVID, 2019. And then no, we didn't go to any games during COVID, obviously. And then 21 and 22, and then this year we have 6 home games. So definitely a fan for life. I have a tattoo on my calf with Michigan State helmet is part of, and am I disappointed I didn't go to state? Yeah, maybe I keep my master's or work there eventually in the future, but definitely feel like a Spartan. So that's why I wanted to go over my top 5 games. But I do want to say one more time, I'm jealous of my buddies that did go to the Big Ten championship games. I mean, the Wisconsin game, nuts. The Ohio State game was electric because we won. And then the Iowa game too was pretty sick. Another game I know my buddies have been to was the Trouble with the Snap game at Michigan. I mean, talk about probably deafeningly quiet there after that because that was a shocking game. Never really had the lead. We had the better stats, but never had the lead. And Little Giants, probably the games that I wish I could have gone to, but hopefully someday. Oh, and the Rose Bowl, of course. Hopefully someday I'll have my chance. Obviously, we've had our disappointments too in big games. Smoked by Ohio State, smoked by Alabama in the playoff. The Cotton Bowl would have been a cool one too when we came back against Baylor and Tony Lippett just lit up that punter. Such a great highlight if you want to go watch that one. Just look up Tony Lippett, Baylor punter. Lights the dude up. And the way he sits up, he's all dazed. It's almost like a video game. Um, that's pretty much all I got, though. Short and sweet today, 20, 25 minutes or so. I do want to say to anybody that listens, if you're friends, families, or if I don't even know you, thanks so much. It means a lot to us. Feel free to send us some questions. I did make a Gmail for this. It's going to be 2fans1paul at Gmail, and the 2 and the 1 are the numbers. So don't type it out. It's the number 2fans1paul at gmail.com. Feel free to send any questions or comments. KB and I would love to break them down for you guys. So thanks again for listening. I appreciate your time. This is a quick little 20-25 minute podcast, my top 5 games, and just a little bit of news at the beginning. So shoot me some questions. KB and I should be doing another podcast later this week before his wedding, probably in person. So we might just talk about our fandom, talk about how much we love college football, because I know we both do a lot. And maybe we'll talk some betting lines as well. I know a good amount of my buddies do some sports betting, and I do here and there, not as much as I used to, but that'll probably be the agenda for this week on Wednesday or Thursday. I'm going to upload this so it posts Monday morning. So thanks again for listening, and as always, go green.